welcome to the stage the one and only Pharrell Williams, award-winning filmmaker, Morgan Neville.
Thank you.
Yes. Wow. How did Lego become the inspiration for your storytelling?
First of all, thank you for this time and space, and thank you all for being here. Thank you. When I was a little boy, my parents would buy me different Lego sets. And, it's the earliest of my childhood, the toys that I remember the most were my Lego set and this thing called Stretch Armstrong, believe it or not. And, but I just remembered how I used to daydream all the time. And sometimes I would actually get in trouble in school for daydreaming as much. But those toys gave me the room and those sets, to imagine and daydream and dream of things. Now, this is not what I dreamt of, but I just find it very interesting that it started there with me as a child. And our oldest Rocket, when he was little, we would get him Lego sets from around the world. And then when we had triplets, we had triplets. we would get them Lego sets as well. And so when this opportunity came up, I was like, man, I want to make sure that my children, even at a very young age, would be able to understand the story when their dad tells it. And last but not least, when you tell your story through the guise of Lego, it makes it more universal. And people realize that you'll see that it's not just the story of a black man from a marginalized community. It's all of you that have gone through different types of struggle in your life with identifying who you are and what you really feel like you are inside. And defying your environment when they tell you you're just this or you're just that, when they try to put you in a box, pun intended. Being a Lego character, having that honor, just helps to tell the universal story of humanity.
I think all of us, whether it's ourselves or our children, have grown up with Legos, so it's, I think, such an inspired medium and perhaps a new genre as far as I can think. And I'm going to throw it over to Morgan. How did you and Pharrell come together to tell this story, and how did you collaborate creatively to tell this incredibly unique film?
So Pharrell had pitched me this idea of, the way you pitched it was, why don't you make a documentary, and when you're done, just throw away the images and do it again in Lego. And that was a little bit of what we did, but I realized that it's not just translating documentary, that the animation gives you a chance to time travel, to go to play, to be there at the moment of creation, to go to outer space, to do all these different things, and to kind of get inside of his head, in that way. And so we made a documentary, first with storyboards and pictures and archive footage that we finished before we ever started animating it. And then we went back and reanimated the whole thing and started storyboarding again at the beginning. But in the beginning, for the first couple of years, there's a 5-year project that we, you just stepped back and said, go make a film. And then I presented it to you, and I knew I wanted you to write music for it too. So then it became me as a filmmaker holding up a mirror to Pharrell, and then Pharrell taking my interpretation of a story and putting it back into songs off of that, which went back into the movie, and it created this feedback loop that was really surprising to both of us.
It's amazing, and you came up with a really, really creative animated biopic. I'm going to ask you, Pharrell, you've worked with so many incredible artists and produced so many iconic creations. How did you select which were the artists and collaborators that you would feature in the film to tell your story?
Interestingly enough, I did not. In the same way that, I didn't pick which parts of my life that would go into the film. I didn't pick which artists would end up in there either, I think. Morgan interviewed so many people over the pandemic. That's how long we've been working on this, as he said, like 5 years. I gave him complete autonomy of my story because I felt like if I would have told my story, there's so many other things that I would have put in there. You guys, first of all, you'd still be watching it right now. And it would probably be like a meatloaf of hubris. They need to see that I can do this and that. I did that, and this is so cool. But you know what? There wouldn't have been a plot. There wouldn't have been a cohesive narrative, because again, that's where the ego comes in. But for me, I wanted to do this with humility. I wanted to take a step back and let this guy do what he does. If you have seen "Won't You Be My Neighbor,"
Yes.
for example, you know that this man has a gift in not only listening, but he also really understands that the story tells you where the framework is, and it presents itself to you. And that's the reason why, just so you guys understand, that's the reason why we started out making an animated doc, but it's turned into all these other things, a biopic, a musical. It's like all these things because he listened to the story.
Yeah, absolutely. We were just talking about, it's so creative and innovative in many ways. I think it's really hard to define exactly what genre it is. I mean, one thing, however, though, it is animation, Lego. I think people in the audience would love to know, was there any specific process in terms of animation approach to the story and weaving it into this storytelling?
We've learned so much, that Lego has a Bible of rules about what happens in Lego animation, and anything in this movie has to be buildable. So not every piece exists, but it has to be able to be made. So most of the pieces exist, but Pharrell from the very beginning, and we both talked about this, about really pushing Lego to change their skin tone palette they had and the hairstyles they had. And when we started getting into things like Pusha T's braids, I remember getting a note back from Lego saying, they're too thin and they'll break off and a child will choke on them. And we said, but it's a movie. And they said, but it has to be manufacturable. So we actually talked to an engineer at Lego about how thick the braid had to be manufacturable. So things like that. And another thing I didn't realize at the very beginning, but very quickly realized, is that there's a lot of movement, a lot of dance in Pharrell's story, and Lego characters don't bend. So how do you communicate movement in that way, and just fudging edges of joints moving slightly with everything else? There were so many things we had to figure out, but I loved the limitation of it because it just forced us to be so much more creative.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
The other thing is, too, we sat down, you and I, with the team to talk to them about meeting the hands of the consumer in the intersection of where they are. Because so many different hands put Lego pieces together every day, millions and millions, and they don't all look the same. And so at that particular time, there was a very limited offering of skin tone. And because of our conversations there, and we interceded on the behalf of humanity, we just said, we need to have all the colors. Because you want those young hands and those older hands that are putting these pieces together to feel a connection. And we also did that with archetypes as well. So gender, non-gender, we did everything And you don't always have to agree. This is not just so you guys understand, it's not a political thing for us. It's a human thing. It's a humanitarian thing. And that was like one of the things. We did skin tone, and we also did hair textures. I mean, for the first time, when you have short hair like mine, like before, that wasn't necessarily being expressed. And now that's happening. And that's because Lego had it in their hearts and their minds that they wanted to expand and meet this beautiful, representation of diversity and humanity right in the intersection of right where you are.
Yes. Okay. My final question to you, Pharrell, of course, this is your life story. I understand at first you were hesitant to make a movie about your life at this particular stage. But once you made that decision and you started this journey with Morgan, was there something you absolutely wanted to convey, or was there a message that you wanted to get across?
Oh, yes. There's a few. One, it's important that you be who you feel like you are, no matter what society says to you. And there's lots of different ways to interpret what I'm saying. And you in your heart know what I'm saying. All of you have different walks of life, different tribulations, different trials, where your environment is telling you you're not this, you're that. But you feel like you're this, and they think you're that, and they try to put you in a box. And, you're all pluralists. You all do different things. You all like different things. And it's okay to be different. Just be. Put the context around who you are to you. Walk it like you mean it. Talk it like you mean it. Don't back down. And let them see that you mean what you mean when you say what you say and you do what you do. And last but not least, when you think about what that is, just know that it's never too late. Now is certainly better than never. And I don't care if you're 8, I don't care if you're 80, you can do it and you can be whatever you want to be. I'm telling you right now, take it from a black boy from Virginia Beach, Virginia. You, and I say a boy because I'm 51, but I still feel like a baby. But there's nothing you can't do, guys. And I know that this is a crazy, divisive time that we're living in, but we're hoping that you realize that you're a part of this human community, and nothing can stop us when we accept our differences. That which makes you different is what makes you special. And I'm telling you, now is better than never. Start with your dream right now when you leave this theater, piece by piece.